What's up? It's your boy Carcino here, and let's get into the beef between Jawan Howard and Chris Webber. Wow. Where can I begin with this? Wow. This is two type of personalities where when they are getting along, they great. And it's been like this since high school. You know, Webb came from like the suburban area. He didn't really come from the heart of Detroit. Jalen basically came from the heart of Detroit. He went to what, Southwestern, I think. Came up a little differently than Webb. Webb was pretty much picked since 8th grade. He was going to go to high school, do good things there at school. He already had the scouts. You know, Big colleges, LSU, all these people going, but Michigan, they wanted to keep him close to home. And all of these things is happening really fast for Chris Webber, who was like one of the big, you know, people in the country. Now, everything was peaches and cream. Jalen basically brought all of these different, things to the table as far as the idea about the wearing the saggy pants. They were Michigan. This is what they wanted to bring the inner city or the hood of Detroit or where they was from. They wanted to rep where they were from. Rep this hip hop, the style, the young hip hop group. This was it. The Fab Five was it. If you loved hip hop, you loved the Fab Five. They represented that. All black shoes, and they was just like the team you rooted for, even if you wasn't from Michigan. You loved the Fab Five. So everything was peaches and cream. Them coming up. Webb didn't really, respect a lot of Jalen's game. Jalen had some big games, especially when they played. I watched him play against Illinois. He had one of his best games. And I thought that once he got to the pro level, he would have a very solid career at point guard, probably moving to the two position and playing two. Once he got to the NBA, and got his shot more established, he could be a very valuable two guard as well. Now, they lose and get blown out by Duke. No problem. But the North Carolina game, that finals, and it's coming down to the wire. The timeout play. No one really talks about how poor of a game Jalen had. Jalen had a very terrible game, which he knows. He tried to bring it up a little bit when he was trying to go over the play again. And it's like, I'm not blaming my brother. It's not his fault we lost the game, but this is what happened on the last play. Trying to break it down to save face, even though, they're not speaking. And the situation is Jalen has always played with a chip on his shoulder. He was upset with Steve Fisher. Steve Fisher's not running my number or letting me set it up to plays. Webb was doing this, Webb was doing that. And, Ray and all the rest of them, Jimmy, I got to have the ball. Get that ball to me. Let me set the play up. I'm the point guard. I run the show. Chris is bringing the ball up, going coast to coast. He didn't like that. He didn't feel the urgency of him going coast to coast. Why am I the point guard? Or if Jalen takes too many shots, he's mad at the coach. Coach sit him down. He hot because he was taking too many shots. So he always played with that chip on his shoulder. Now you manifest that into success. Now this thing happened where Chris is going to go pro, and the rest of these guys are going to stay behind. So they're going to lose Chris Webber, but it's going to be Jalen's team to basically run with Jawan and Ray and Jimmy. You got those four that's going to stay. So y'all can make a real big run. Y'all still got four of the top guys in the team, you know. So just see Webber's in the league. Now, a situation occurred where Jalen is getting ready to come out and go pro, and they boys, they meet up at an all-star game, and Ray was like, yo, I'm gonna come get some tickets to come see you, man. Just give me some tickets, you know, and I'll come check you out. And he kind of didn't really get Ray the tickets or whatever. Something happened, stiffed him on some tickets. Chris Webber did. And when he made his first all-star game in Washington, Jalen was going to pay for the rooms. Wanted some of the homeboys to come support him. So he told him, he's like, look, I want you to come out and support. You know, it's going to be big. Jawan's already there. We both playing for the Bullets. Everything is love. But it's my first all-star game. I wanted to have the guys there. So they arrived there. They couldn't find a hotel room during all-star weekend. Webb told him he was going to find a room. He didn't. Sorry about that, coming down with a cold. So after telling him, like, look, man, tried everything we could with Webb. It's just, you know, that's C Webb. You know, he just was busy, and Webb was looking at it like, man, I'm busy. I tried. But, you know, I got media. I got to get, it's my first all-star game. They telling me what I got to do. So the rest of the guys thought like he blowing us off. He was like, Jimmy don't even really talk to him. Ain't really heard from Chris since like 93. So everything falls on C Webb. Sorry. So everything was falling on C Webb. And he like, man, I was just busy, dog. So it wasn't no love lost just yet. Then there was the indictment. The indictment play happened, you know, and Ed Martin, who's like a big time supposed to be booster of, you know, the inner city kids and people from the University of Michigan, And certain players that went to Michigan found out that Ed was running in, the FBI came and got involved after the car accident where Mateen Cleaves, who was supposed to go to Michigan, ended up going to Michigan State. This is how Michigan State became so powerful. Ed Martin was found to have an illegal casino in his house, and a couple of Michigan players is over there, and some who he's allegedly funded money to, they were involved in a car accident. Mateen Cleaves wasn't hurt, tractor trailer was, and got his arm broke and had to sit on the bench with a broken arm for a minute, and it was a mess. It was a real mess. So people wanted to know what in the world was it, what led to this crash. Then when they found out he was at Ed Martin's house, then they went and investigated, then the FBI came in and it became a real big mess probe that led back to Chris Webber and everybody else. The money was given out. And once they tracked the money down and he found out he had an illegal casino, they started interviewing people. And Jalen admitted to, like, yeah, I took a little money, but it was nothing substantial. It was just a little bit of money. He was just giving out little money here just to help the inner city kids out, like here's some gym shoes, something like that. It was nothing like he bought a house or nothing like that for us. Nothing, little stuff. So he admitted to what he did in his tape when they did the investigation, and they considered what he did was to be minor because they really didn't have too much on him, but he was just a smaller piece of the puzzle going to Michigan. He was a small guy. This is C. Webb, one of the biggest guys in there, and allegedly they saw he got about $600,000. So he said he did not take money, and that was his statement. Then after talking back, and they was talking jail time for him, and they put a lot of pressure on him, he had to come out and admit and say, I was unaware, this guy took advantage of me. This Ed Martin, and made this whole statement, and Jalen kind of went against him for that. Like, hey man, man, why did you throw him under the bus like that? I'm quite sure they put pressure on him to do it. He had to, but Ed Martin died some years later after that happened, and Jalen, being the person he is, threw that on Chris. Like, that man died of a broken heart. Like Chris Webber's the reason he went to jail. Now, when you do that publicly, we got a problem. You see what I'm saying? If you do that publicly, to me, you're not a friend. You're not a friend. You're not somebody I could trust. You somebody who has an agenda. That's how I look at that. And see, a lot of people didn't even know about all this stuff until they wanted to do the documentary that was coming up. Now, see, here's the thing. Jalen Rose had never discussed none of this about Ed Martin with Chris Webber. None of it. Nothing about why he had to throw him under the bus and this and that. None of this stuff was discussed with C. Webb, who's supposed to be your brother. You didn't discuss that with him. So the documentary on the Fab Five is coming up. Now, right now, the Fab Five have been basically suspended. Chris Webber and them can't come back to the university. They can't be on the premises. None of these things. Now, while this is going on, they took down all their banners. They erased all their records from memory. Mateen Cleaves go to Michigan State. They win a national championship. Now Izzo is the guy. Steve Fisher lost his job based off of this. And it was a big mess. And at no time was Jalen Rose blaming Chris Webber for the entire thing. Now, all of a sudden, their NBA careers are over. You know, just completely over at this point. And it goes even further than it being over at this point. You know, their careers is over and everything. It was the fact that Michigan, the guy who's running everything in Michigan, saying if Chris would just come and take responsibility, if he just said, "I'm sorry, I apologize for lying," this would really help, bridge things here at Michigan. And this is what Jalen wants to be, the one to bring the 5-5 back. Jalen Rose want to be that guy to say, "I fixed the 5-5. I brought everything back together." Like me, Jalen Rose. And as much as he's trying to say he don't care about the credit, that's all Jalen. He wants proper etiquette for what he's doing. He wants to be the engine behind the whole thing. And he just think, "Oh, Chris can't handle it. I'm in charge. I'm the one that's going to have this going on." So they brought the idea up about pitching a deal with ESPN, which they worked, about doing a documentary on the 5-5. Now he said, "Cool, that sounds great. About doing a documentary on the 5-5." Now Ross Greenberg, who knows about this deal, Ross Greenberg from HBO is trying to get in there and do this and beat out ESPN while Jalen is working on it. Now the problem is how it was done. It was like Jalen Rose is the executive producer. And they were like, why is Jalen the executive producer? Everybody else was producers too, but Jalen was the guy spearheading it. He was the guy that was the one in charge of basically getting everything together on the 30 for 30 when the biggest star on the team is Chris Damn Webber. So, and he was like, "You could have bought in and been, involved in the project. I left you a buy-in and you waited to the last minute." And the reason why he waited to the last minute, because he wanted to see what was going on and nobody kept him in the loop, according to Webb. Webb said they called him at the last minute and said, "We ready to wrap in about a week." He didn't even know they had been shooting the scenes already. He's like, "What? You finna rap?" He's like, "Yeah, we just want to hurry up and get your interviews in and then just go, because you agreed to do it." And that's how they even got the 30 for 30. It's because Chris Webb was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And then for sure, "Yeah, we'll do that." It was no problem. And then he was like, "Oh, they're gonna bring up the allegations on this and that." And then Chris Webber was like, "I don't know if I want to do it," because he didn't know how it was going to be represented. He knew that was going to come up. You can't do a 5-5 story and not bring up the Ed Martin situation and everything else. So his thing is the timeout and the Ed Martin situation is going to come up. Then it came to, well, Chris owed an apology for the timeout. He needs to own up to the timeout. It's like, what? You watch this documentary, and the documentary is basically because Webb chose not to do it. I see why he chose not to do it. If you watch that documentary, The Fab Five, it is a very disrespectful documentary towards Chris Webber. And it's very arrogantly done. As you see Jalen Rose highlighted way more than everyone else, even though they got equal time, supposedly. It was all about Jalen Rose basically patting himself on the back. I'm in this position now. Jalen does that from time to time. His ego is really strong. It rubbed a lot of people when he was playing. Like I told you, he played with a chip on his shoulder. It was the reason why Larry Brown didn't want. Larry Brown didn't want to give him the chance. He really wasn't happy that Jalen was there. It wasn't until Larry Bird got there did he really have the opportunity to shine and people got to see what he could do. When Larry Bird, let him play. Because Larry Brown wasn't. Now, the situations and the narratives always change. They always went from one area to another area, or they went from one situation to another situation. And you started to see changes amongst what the teams were doing, the direction, and how things were moving, and those notions or whatever. But it was clear to me, very clear, that, oh no, he did play him. He played him in the playoffs when he had no choice and realized that he could play. Sorry about that. I remember that. But anyhow, I digress. Oh, was that Larry? That might have been Larry Bird. Yeah, that was Larry Bird. Yeah, I was right. Larry Bird was the one that gave him a shot. But anyway, I digress. Now, after this documentary airs, people are watching it, and it's just a bash of Chris Webber. Then everybody's like, yeah, if Chris would just apologize, if he would just take onus on what happened on the play. You want him to... Nobody talks about the timeout in Michigan no more. That's not even a big deal. Like, his NBA career and everything he's done has dwarfed all of that. So, no, they want to bring it up like, you owe us an apology. I've never seen any team lean on a player to apologize for a mistake that a kid made on a basketball court. The game is over. He made a mistake. They didn't win. Whoop-de-doo. Why you want to keep badgering a player over what he did as a child, as a kid, is the most dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And like, oh, he's still depressed over the play. It's ridiculous, but it's a documentary. Jalen was like, you went and tried to meet with Ross Greenberg and steal the idea from behind my back. No, Chris Webber listened to Ross Greenberg. Ross Greenberg at HBO was like, look, I know they're doing a Fab Five thing over there. I don't know how far they are with it, but if you can get the rights to do it, and we'll do a 5-5-1 over here, it would make more sense if they could have got all the guys to do it. It would have been for more money. They would have had a lot more money. But the deal didn't get done. They were so far along with the process, and it had been all these different things, and 2 documentaries just didn't make sense. So, yeah, ESPN got that, and they did it. Now, the direction and the fallback of it is how Jalen was talking on there and how disappointed he was, and that Chris would lie like that on a grand jury. And he's doing all this on the documentary while they're filming on the last week, or when they were supposed to be wrapping up. He's adding all this extra stuff because Chris is not going to be in it. So now it's just the 4 of them. They're talking to Fab Five, but it's the 4 of them talking. And now Rob Pelinka is the fifth member of the team. So now he's in the Fab Five because Chris Webber will not participate, and it was sold to ESPN based off his participation. So now that he decided not to do it, it was still going forward, and it ended up being a success for ESPN, but it ended up driving a wedge between Chris Webber and Jalen. So I think they were doing something on the set, and Bill, what's his name, Bill Simmons, and Jalen was doing a show at the time, and Ben is instigating it, like, hey man, why don't you go talk to Chris, man? You guys got to talk. you know, and get bad. And he was like, hey, what's up, my brother? And Chris Webber told him, man, get the F out my face. While he was broadcasting, you know, they came in during the intermission. He told him, man, get the F out my face. And they was down in Miami. I think the Miami Heat was playing or something. So they all at the club. Later on, they had like Club Live, you know, a bunch of NBA players are there. Dale Davis, you know, I don't know if Anthony Davis is there, but Dale was there. A couple other players was there, and he saw Chris Webber up in the club. And Chris told him, look, don't bring that, talking about Bill Simmons, don't come in my face with that MFer, you and him, you know, and you doing all this, kissing up so they can advance your career, and you trying to disrespect me and talking about some, I'm going to apologize and all this, you a MFer and blah, 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 blah. And he cussed Jalen Rose out in Club Live. And when he cussed him out in Club Live, Jalen was sitting over there taking it. But he was like, how you going to disrespect us like that and disrespect me like that and do this and do that? And, you know, and basically Jalen went on the show, brought up the whole incident that, yeah, he told me off. And he was like, man, look, you broke the code, bruh. What we talk about in the clubs or anywhere else, that was from me to you, you know, and you trying to do that to advance your career. And he's like, I don't talk about you. When I'm out there, I'm promoting the sports. I don't have to sell myself. I don't have to sell Chris Webber. You got to sell Jalen Rose every day. Like, I'm Jalen Rose, and I got to sell I'm Jalen. I did this, and I did that, and oh, this is what Jalen Rose would have did. You know, and that's how Jalen is, because Jalen has a huge ego. His ego is very large, and he likes to be in control of every single thing. And if he's not, then you're against him, and that's his mentality. So he got that. Webb don't have that. As much as people think Webb got this really huge ego, he don't. He's not cool with being disrespected. You know what I'm saying? If you break certain codes and rules, he just gonna look at you differently, and he don't want nothing to do with you. That's just Webb in a nutshell. So Jalen decides to go ahead and starts talking about him once see Webb goes on the Dan Patrick show. And basically said, look, you know, this guy, he was like, one guy's, Jalen comes out all adamant, talking about, man, on the show, he needs to just come out and apologize, man, and, you know, come on, we love you, brother, all your teammates love you, let's do this, big man, let's come together, all on the show. Still pushing that Chris Webber apologized to Michigan. It's like, are you kidding? Why do you keep pushing the envelope that he got to go apologize to Michigan? Who's putting that battery in your back to try to push that he comes in and apologize to Michigan? Who keeps putting that battery in your back to keep pushing that envelope? If you feel some way about him wanting to apologize and all that, and that's going to help bring the Michigan legacy back and all that, you talk to him about it behind closed doors. He would have told you about it, and he did tell you about all that. And he told you what he said and everything else. Now you want to say Ed Martin died because of him. He had died of a broken heart because of Webber. How dare you put that on the man? How dare you put that on his legacy? I mean, that was $600,000. That wasn't no little stuff for shoes. We talking about $600,000 and talking about, man, he lied on him. He never did those things. The man pleaded guilty to the case, to the charges. So I don't know what Jalen was talking about, but I just think that that's just not how you handle that situation with your brother. You know, somebody who you keep saying, that's my brother, that's my brother. Why do you keep trying to show him at his lowest light on the show? And then that's when you screaming, that's my brother, but then showing him in his lowest light. I just don't understand that and expecting that person to be cool with you. It's just moronic to me, but okay. In Jalen's mind, this is okay. So next thing you know, he comes out and does all this attention, and he gets Chris Webber to respond and was like, well, this guy's trying to further his career, using my name and using everything else. Why? Because he has a book coming out. And that's why he comes out on this rant, goes, one guy lied to the grand jury. One guy, called a timeout in the college finals. One guy don't speak to any of his former teammates. One guy, I mean, he just started going down the list on Chris Webber and still bringing up the doggone timeout issue. It's like, are you serious? You gonna bring up timeout from the Michigan college game? You guys have been out the league for about 20 years and you still bringing that up? It just shows you the pettiness of it. Then next thing you know, here comes a book. Jalen Rose. I'm hurt, so I'm gonna talk about it. Where he basically just goes into the story of what happened at the Live. He keeps putting down Chris Webber some more. And it's like, dog, you still going on about this? And all of this was bringing up all this attention, going back and forth on your show, proved exactly what Chris Webber was saying. You doing it to boost your career in broadcast. Now you got the book coming. That's why you trying to bait having C Webb go back and forth with you, because you got the book coming out. And you basically sold the book off your beef with Chris. So stop your pump faking, hit your brakes, and chill. It's sad, man. It's real sad, because I want to be the one to believe it, like in good in people and all of these things, man. But you see how the way people act, man, and it's just crazy. And he's like, man, one day we're going to work it out. We're going to be brothers again. I don't know how. So Chris Webber, gets invited when they go watch the Rose Bowl. They sitting up there in the booth, and he was like, man, I basically, from far I know, I'm still banned from being on the field. So I'm staying in the booth because I don't have, on paper, I'm not supposed to be on the property. So I could be in the booth. That's as far as I can go. It wasn't like I was hiding. You know what I'm saying? Now, the problem is now that he said, oh, that's a good look. Now all he got to do is apologize. It's like, dude, when you get off of it, let the University of Michigan, you know what I'm saying? Let the University of Michigan tell Chris Webber he needs to apologize. Jalen Rose should not be telling Chris Webber he needs to apologize to the University of Michigan for nothing. That shouldn't happen. And you should know that. And you shouldn't be doing that on ESPN. You should be talking to your brother about that, and he should have addressed it, and that should have been the end of it. But no, you keep pushing the narrative that they wanted you to say. So now if Michigan, the University of Michigan is saying that, and it's coming out your mouth, Jalen, who's putting that battery in your back? So anyway, that's the end of that. If you want to watch the end of, support the sports beats, we got them in one of these four corners here. Don't forget, if you like this video, people donated for this video, y'all. So that shows it works. Click the link in the description box. Hit up the Streamlab or hit me up on the Cash App. It's Carcino, man. Peace.